إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. قال الله تعالى في الكتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. وقال يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful aspects and characteristics of Islam is the brotherhood that we share and the brotherhood that has been created between us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a time of the year which this really comes to light is Ramadan. And when you think about Ramadan and you see how people frequent the masjid, there's a certain harmony that exists between everyone. And if you really, analyze the relationship of the Muslims in that month, you really understand the true essence of what it means to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. For a brief moment, you get a glimpse of what the community of the Prophet ﷺ may have looked like and how they may have interacted. Everyone is going to the masjid. Strangers are sending salam upon each other. People are buying each other dinner. Right? They're inviting you to your homes. Right? They're giving sadaqah and charity to people they know and people they don't know. I mean, everything seems perfect. But when you look at it even closer, the Prophet ﷺ, he states, right, in an authentic hadith, that the rights of a Muslim, that each Muslim has upon each other are 6. And if you look at the month of Ramadan, and the harmony that you get, and the peace and the tranquility that you feel when you go to the masjid, you realize all of these 6 rights are being fulfilled, and you don't even know it. Right? There's a bond that's there, that's created from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that sometimes feels like it's stronger than blood. Right? That you'll do things for people that you don't even know. Right? And that's how the companions used to live with each other. Right? They would travel and they would stay at one another's homes for 3 days and they wouldn't even know each other's names. Right? They would serve them better than they would serve their own family members. Right? They would give them from the spaces where they slept and they ate. Because the Prophet ﷺ told them that this is your brother in faith. And that's all they needed to know. But when you seclude yourself from a community, and you seclude yourself from a society, there's a void that can't be fulfilled. Right? You feel a certain emptiness when you're not connected to a community. When you're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and there's no one else to remind you. When you're falling short of your obligations. Right? And no one's there to check on you. Right, a certain void begins to fill. So the Prophet ﷺ says the rights of a Muslim are 6. And it was asked, Ya Rasulullah, what are they? And he says, when you meet him, you give him the greetings of peace. And when he invites you, you respond to his invitation. And when he seeks your advice, you advise him. And when he sneezes, you praise Allah. When he sneezes and praises Allah, you supplicate mercy upon him. And when he becomes ill, you visit him. And when he dies, you follow him. And we'll just look at some of these rights throughout the khutbah to understand how we can strengthen our bonds of brotherhood in our community. And how when we have discord, if we revisit these 6 rights, we'll find that somewhere we have a deficiency. And if we were to overcome our pride, right, and overcome our ego, and overlook all of these things that we have, our communities will be much stronger. And they will replicate and they will reflect what the community of the Prophet ﷺ looked like. So the first one the Prophet ﷺ said is exchanging of salam. One of the distinguishable characteristics of Muslims, the pure joy, love, and happiness that comes is to be in a street, right? Or to be in a hospital, to be in a marketplace. And you make eye contact with a brother or a sister that you don't know, right? But you know that they're Muslim. They just have that look about them. And it's that look that I can't explain to you, but you know when you see a Muslim that they're Muslim. Right? Your heart just feels a certain interconnectedness. And you're walking by and someone goes, Assalamu alaikum. No reason whatsoever. Immediately you should think of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The one who initiates salam first is free from pride, is free from kibr. So the person who takes the initiative to say salam, whether they know the person or not, does not have pride in their heart. Right? So next time you see someone, say salam. It takes nothing from you. But there's a deeper reason for that. Right? Because it sends the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His mercy upon the others. Right? It's a way of connecting. It's the way that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to greet people. Right? And you can be having the worst day ever. The absolute worst day. Right? And this is from, this is an anecdotal from a personal experience. And you're walking down the street or you're walking somewhere. Someone looks at you, gives you a pure, sincere smile, and they say salam. Right? And it's effortless. It requires nothing. But it makes a difference. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, by the one in whose hands my soul is in, you will not enter paradise until you believe. And you will not believe until you love each other. And shall I not direct you to something that if you do it, you will love each other? And he spread the greeting of peace. Right? The precondition, the requirement for entering paradise is to love one another. Right? To put aside the differences, however difficult they may be, and just extend the greeting of salam because there lie more blessings in it than we can understand. And the first and foremost that we discussed, that it removes that pride from your heart. You understand that you're purely sending the peace, right, and the mercy and the blessings of God upon your brother. The second, Rasulullah ﷺ said, the invitation. The most honorable, you feel most honored when someone invites you to share space with them, right? Whether it's their home, whether it's a meal. And when they invite us to their homes, right, we are required to respond to them. Right? When we are invited, we respond to them the best we can, and if we make the commitment, that we abide by our word. It's kind of like a first come, first served basis. Right? If you have given your word to someone and you say that you will attend, then you attend. Right? And it's something that happens in nowadays. You will get an invitation to something, people will either RSVP or they won't RSVP. They make other plans and they neglect it. But when it comes to our sunnah, when it comes to our tradition of Muslims, this is something about honor. Right? When your brother or sister goes to invite you because they honored you to share space with them, it is a right that they have upon you that you respond to their invitation. Right? And this is something very simple that we know. Right? We know this stuff, but it's something that is so important that we neglect and we forget that this is a right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon us to others and from then upon us. That if we're invited, we respond to their invitation. And when he seeks your advice, you advise him. Advice does not always necessitate that it be religious advice. Advice in all aspects of life, whether he or she may come to you, we offer our help to the best of our capacity, and if we are unable to guide the source, then we guide them towards that which will alleviate their stress. Nasiha does not always necessitate that it has to be Islamic advice. Right? Many of us are professionals and we can offer them professional advice. Right? We can offer them emotional advice. And the best thing that we can do is acknowledge that we may not be the right person and that we don't always have to offer advice. Right? And this is something that is a challenge of the nafs, that when we're asked, we always have to state an opinion. You know, the scholars say that one of the most intellectual and one of the most intelligent things that a person can say is, I don't know. Is, I don't know. And that is the most sincere advice. Because when people come to you, they have entrusted you with a matter. And for you to give them insincere advice or incorrect advice is a disservice to them and a disservice to you. It's a dishonor to them and a dishonor to you. So the best thing that you can do if you don't know something is to say that you don't know, but go above and beyond and find the means of alleviation of the suffering of your brother. The Prophet ﷺ said that providing ease for my brother, right, being in service of my brother is better to me than i'tikaf for a month in my masjid. Right, it's better to help someone in need, my brother who's suffering, than for me to go and do spiritual seclusion. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, that is a matter that is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person that is the most beloved to Allah is the one who provides ease and removes suffering from others. And so the emphasis is made here that if someone is in difficulty and someone is in need and you're able to alleviate them, that is better for you than performing i'tikaf. And that's an authentic hadith. This is something so beautiful, the next one. It's something so profound about our religion that we don't really think about. It happens, it's so habitual that it happens and we move on. Right? He says, when he sneezes and praises Allah, supplicate mercy upon him. This is due to the fact that sneezing is a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the expelling of the congested air that is blocked in our nasal cavity, in certain parts of the body, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for this air to have a passage out where it can exit. And thus far, the sneezing person feels relief. And thus the Prophet ﷺ stated that the person praises Allah for this favor. He praises Allah for this favor, and the Muslim brother says to him, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon you. He also commanded the person who sneezed to answer the Muslim brother by saying to him, may Allah guide you and set your affairs right. For he is the one who has caused himself to lose the two blessings, the blessing of praising Allah and the blessing of his brother supplicating. This is something so profound because we sneeze. And if you really think about it, I was having a conversation with my wife. I said, something weird always happens. And it's not weird, but when you think about it, I can be in any public gathering. And I have a tendency to sneeze really loud, and it comes very powerfully. And I don't care where I am, it's a natural habit that I'll say Alhamdulillah really loud. Right? I've been with patients, I'll be around whoever I am outside in public, and the Alhamdulillah just follows, really loud. And naturally, in a non-Muslim setting, people will shout, bless you or God bless you. Right? And the conversation ends there. But the Muslim narrative is much different. It's almost like a conversation that you have, right? Alhamdulillah, yarhamkumullah, yahdikumullah. It goes back and forth, and when you think about it, it's just an exchange of blessings and mercy from God. And the physiological response of the body is, yes, the pressure is being relieved. Right? It's being relieved. And if you hold it, you're hurting yourself, and it hurts. So you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the one who witnesses makes dua for you. And the one whose dua is made for seeks mercy upon their brother from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one of the most beautiful things that we can do because hasanat are being exchanged, but no effort is required, and it goes back to the same action like salam. Right? If you say that to someone, there's no pride, there's no ego. And you're doing it solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and although it's an action of this world, it's something that happens on the tongue, the scales in the hereafter are being moved in your favor. So all of these things require little to no effort if you think about it. Right? If you're seeing someone, you say salam to them. If they seek advice from you, then you advise them. If they need assistance, then you give them assistance. Right? If they sneeze, then you respond to a sneeze. If you think about all of these things thus far, it's not like we have to go and do manual labor. It's not something that requires a lot of effort. But what it does require is recognition and cognizance of others over yourself. Right? And it's really removing that pride from my heart that they haven't done it first. Well, they see me. I'm also a part of the community. They don't know my name. They know my family. Why don't they do it? I'm older. I'm younger. I'm this and I'm that. These are things that shaitan places in our heart, and these differences come. But simply put, right, the one who says salam is free from kibr, is free from pride. So little things like that bring us closer because these were the prophetic traits that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ possessed, and they did it thoughtlessly because that is how the Prophet ﷺ nurtured them. When he formed his community, these were the basic foundations that all of the companions lived with. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم والعاقبة للمتقين ولا أدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله ثم ما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, the last 2 points, the last 2 rights that a Muslim has upon one another, they're so pivotal and they're so important, but the more socially connected we become in this age with social media and all of that, the more socially irrelevant we become and the more we forget our obligations. The Prophet ﷺ said that when he becomes ill, that you visit him. And this goes without saying, right? We feel loved and we feel valued. We feel we belong when our brothers and sisters visit us and they make dua for us, right? Something that I see on a daily basis. The hospital is one of the most loneliest places, especially the ICU. You'll have people that are on life support and you'll have people on ventilators. And the worst is when there's discord amongst family members or when there's no family at all. And the doctors or the medical staff is left to make the decision of that person. What do? There's literally no person, there is no power of attorney because the person is either homeless or the person is an immigrant and they don't speak English. Right? And there's no visitation and you'll watch them for weeks and months on end. Not a single person comes and visits them. And I've actually sat at the bedside and I've watched people cry from loneliness and saying that I have no one. And you ask them a question, do you have a place to go? When you're doing a social assessment, you ask them, do you have a mode of transportation? Do you have a place to go? Right? Or you have clothing or things like that. And one of the most heartbreaking things is honestly the response that they'll say, I have no one. You come back to your religion. Why is this a right that you have upon you? Because this is something that makes us feel connected. Gives us a sense of belonging in a brotherhood that no matter how alone we may be in this world, we have brotherhood that is given to us by God. And it is a right that we have upon one another to visit each other when we are sick. And subhanAllah, one of the greatest and most virtuous things that you can do is to visit the ill. Right, and one of the most profound and most beautiful stories is when the companions of the Prophet ﷺ are sitting in a gathering. Right, and this is around Fajr time. And the Prophet ﷺ asks, who has followed a janazah this morning? And this is at Fajr time. Abu Bakr Siddiq is the only one who raises his hand. He says, who has fed an orphan? Abu Bakr Siddiq is the only one that has raised his hand. Right, so the reason I mention this is because this is something that we're becoming more detached to. We feel that we fulfilled our obligation if we send a text message, if we send a picture in WhatsApp, if we send a Facebook message. Right, the more connected we become, the more irrelevant our relationships are becoming because it's taking us away from the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, the physical act of going and seeing people and exchanging salam and being and mingling with them. As the Prophet ﷺ would, as his companions would. Going to homes, right, when it's appropriate, and saying, hey, I miss you, I haven't seen you, are you okay? Trust me, people that are broken and people that are lonely and people that are suffering, it makes all the difference for them to know that they're valued. Right, there's a psychological study, right, something that they teach students of psychology. They say Maslow's hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of need that all human beings have, no matter Muslim, Jew, Christian, a human being. They call it the hierarchy of needs. Right, the need to love and belong and feel that sense of belonging and love is number 1. For all human beings, they want to feel loved. And this is where this comes together. Our religion covers that aspect. That when you're ill, visit people to show them that they're loved. And lastly, when he dies, you follow the funeral procession. For verily, whoever follows the funeral until the deceased body is prayed over, then he will receive a qiraat of reward. And the translation of a qiraat is an amount equivalent to that of the size of the mountain of Uhud. Right, so conceptualize that your reward is that of the size of the mountain of Uhud. And if he follows the funeral processions until the body is buried, then he will receive 2 qira'ats of reward. And following the funeral procession contains the fulfillment of a right for Allah, a right for the deceased, and a right for the living relatives of the deceased. Right, we call it fard kifaya, a communal obligation. And if one of them responds the sin is waived from the others. But if they all respond, then they all have done what is required, whether they respond all together or after one another. Right? This is something that happens, and the reason I mention this is there'll be announcements that there's a janazah, and they'll make an announcement that there's a burial. And it's something that we don't pay attention to. Oh, I have a lunch with friends. I have something to do. We'll make an excuse because it is tedious. But simply to stand and pray the janazah prayer is an obligation. Right? It's a fard kifaya. It's something that we do as a community. But to do that is a right that we have upon one another from Allah. An obligation, right? A right that we have. And when we fulfill it, there's rewards of multitude. And if we can go and follow the burial, it's even more reward. And if we can go and throw dirt, it's even more reward. And it's twofold. Because number one, it's a spiritual awakening. It awakens our souls and it reminds us of the hereafter and our own inevitable reality. Number two, there's reward in it and a forgiveness for us, right? And it fulfills the rights that communities have as Muslims. These 6 rights that I've mentioned, my brothers and sisters, this is the reason why the Sahaba were who they were. This is why the community of the Prophet ﷺ was the greatest community that ever lived. Because in their hearts, there was no pride. And when it came to their ego, they placed the love of Allah and the love of the Prophet ﷺ before the love of themselves in this dunya. And I know these are the easiest words to say, especially when someone has hurt you, and especially when you're angered. But remembering that the salam begins and ends for the sake of Allah. You want to send peace because that's how you love one another. And that is the only way to enter paradise. Right after belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So revisit these things. Right? And if there's people that have wronged you, forgive them. Solely because you know that there's no pride in your heart. And if there is pride in your heart, you want to remove that. And because you want to be with the Prophet ﷺ in Jannah. And because you know that Allah has said, these are the rights that all of you have upon one another. And that is the way that we become close-knit together. The feelings of the warmth and love and connectedness that we feel in Ramadan is because we are giving salam to strangers. We are sitting down and talking to people. We're hugging them. We're visiting them. We're inviting them to our homes. We're making dua for them. Right? We're advising them if we're able. And like I mentioned in the beginning, we're already fulfilling these rights without even knowing. So if every single day, when we begin to think about this, that I'm going to say salam to the stranger, number one, because I want to prove to myself that I'm suppressing my ego and there's no pride within me. And also because that is a right my brother and sister has upon me. When they seek advice from me, I'm going to advise them in the best of capacity. If they ask for financial help, I'm going to help them. Anything else that they need, I'm going to help them. Because I want Allah to help me. Right, my dear brothers and sisters, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He strengthens the bonds of brotherhood and that He removes any and all amount of pride from our hearts and that He allows us to be in love with one another as the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were in love with each other. Right, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and that He allows us to hold on to the Quran and He overlooks our shortcomings. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا إننا آمنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وقنا عذاب النار اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا اللهم بلغنا فيما يرضيك أعمالنا عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون أقيموا الصلاة